Taiwan's opposition looks set to meet with Xi Jinping. Another revenge on society attack bulldozes through the Chinese capital, and a pair of Chinese siblings are charged with putting a bomb in a US base. And more on this week's China News headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. You are about to learn some things that YouTube does not want you to know, because they're constantly unsubscribing our viewers without telling them. Or at least that's what a lot of you are saying again and again and again. And here's how YouTube auto-completed a search for China Uncensored. What on earth is China Uncle Goose? Quack! That's probably not what you were searching for. Well, maybe you, Greg. Anyway, stick around to the end and I'll show you how to fight YouTube suppression. So let's begin with a couple of updates. First on the list, the Chagos Islands. For newcomers to the show, the Chagos Islands currently belong to the United Kingdom, but UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has been working on a deal to hand them over to the Chinese Communist Party-friendly government of Mauritius, which is totally right next door, 1,300 miles away. But now the deal has been dealt a major blow as a British Indian Ocean Territory judge has ruled that the Chagosians have the right to live there. This is huge on so many levels. For one, it means that the Chagosians' legal right to return to their homeland has been reaffirmed. In February, a handful of Chagosians arrived on one of the islands and set up camp there. The British authorities issued a removal order arguing that their presence was a threat to national security because of the joint US-UK military base on Diego Garcia, which is rich given that they want to give the islands to Mauritius, which looks like it's planning to allow China to set up its own base on that very same island. But the Chagosians ignored the order. Now that removal order is dust. Hilariously, the judge even used Starmer's Mauritius deal as proof that the British government believed there was no national security threat and the islands could be repopulated. But this is bigger than just that, because the judge also stated that the cost to the UK taxpayer of the Mauritius deal could be £51 billion, which is much higher than the UK originally claimed. In short, the judge said to Starmer, "Your own deal shows that your arguments are stupid." So the Chagosians get to stay, rain or shine. And the UK's original deal is looking more and more like exactly what it was, a pile of pro-CCP doo-doo. And next on the list, another update. Taiwanese opposition leader Shen Yun has accepted Chinese leader Xi Jinping's invitation to visit the mainland. It'll be the first such visit in over 10 years. For political commentary on this, let's go to Admiral Akbar. Admiral? It's a trap! Chung, who chairs the Kuomintang, or KMT, last week expressed her desire to build a bridge via dialogue with the Chinese Communist Party and de-escalate tensions. Because if there's one thing that's known for being constructive, it's talks with China. And who's better at building bridges? There's been criticism of this position from both Taiwan President William Lai and her own party, which is worried that this could harm its chances in district elections later this year. All of which makes sense since the CCP has been assembling attack drone fleets within easy range of the island. So this feels like a gazelle going to talk with the cheetah and saying, "Have you tried a vegan diet?" Chinese state-run media outlet Xinhua says the visit will take place between April 7th and 12th, but didn't say whether or not Xi personally will be meeting Chung or where such talks would happen. But it looks like there's a very real possibility Chung will get to meet with Xi before US President Donald Trump does. And speaking of, President Trump confirmed he'll be meeting with Xi in Beijing next month, between May 14th and 15th. Obviously, the Iran war delayed things a bit, and no doubt Trump wants to arrive in China having defanged another CCP friend. Both the White House and the CCP have welcomed the news and stressed the need for talks and respect. Though Xi Jinping and Donald Trump are known for being respectful as much as Beethoven was known for being a good listener. Of course, China has other problems closer to home, like the so-called revenge on society attacks, which is basically people being so upset at the country's slowing economy that they turn to mass casualty violence. As an American, should I consider this cultural appropriation? This time, a bulldozer slammed into Dahanji Grand Market in Beijing. Several people were injured and a number of vendors either lost their stalls or experienced significant damage. But the total extent of the damage isn't clear, And you know what else isn't clear? What happened to the attacker, because the Chinese Communist Party heavily censored news about the incident. So we'll either find out more details a long time from now or never find out at all. Is it ironic that an attack involving a bulldozer just paved the way for more CCP censorship? And now on to some news about failing Chinese tech, which shouldn't be surprising. Passengers got stranded in moving traffic after a robo-taxi outage in China's Wuhan. At least it's not the worst news ever to come out of Wuhan. Officially, they called the incident a system malfunction, though you might call the whole idea of China pumping out millions of poorly made self-driving cars a system malfunction. The malfunctioning cars were Apollo Go robo-taxis operated by Baidu, which is China's knockoff version of Google. The incident seems to be the first of its kind in China, though I doubt it will be the last. Luckily, nobody was reported injured, but many of these vehicles were just left stranded in the middle of the highway and caused accidents. Baidu hasn't commented on the incident. They already operate some of these same kinds of self-driving cars in the UAE, and they have plans to expand in Britain and Switzerland. This is what the CCP might call win-win mutual cooperation, where China wins by selling cars overseas and also wins by creating potential chaos in other countries. And still on the subject of failing Chinese tech, a video showing a 1J vehicle colliding with a young child while in so-called intelligent driving mode has been circulating online. And when I say young child, I mean a toddler. That's bad press. Apparently, the CCP agrees, since reportedly netizens who forwarded the video online received calls from the police and were required to delete the videos and sign guarantee letters saying they wouldn't publicize this false information, which is a Chinese government expression meaning the truth. The victim is recovering, and Harmony Intelligent Mobility, which is behind these cars, says that the vehicle didn't have any issues that could have caused the accident. Do they realize that sounds worse? If it didn't have any issues, then this wasn't an accident. It was intentional. And the robot versus humanity war has begun. Meanwhile, a Philippines WW2-era landing Navy ship narrowly avoided a collision during Chinese frigate harassment in the South China Sea. Looks like everything in China is crashing this week, not least of all the economy, common sense, and respect for human life. I'm just kidding. Those last three things crashed way before this week. This happened near the Spratly Islands, where the PLA has been intimidating Philippine forces in their own waters while the global media is distracted by the Middle East. Although this has been happening for many years before that. I've been covering this since 3 hairstyles ago. Those were good times. The Chinese guided missile frigate was accused by the Philippines of making unsafe and unprofessional maneuvers, like being this close to the Philippines ship. No, that is not normal. Philippine sailors managed to adjust their course and prevent a crash, but this probably isn't the last time something like this is going to happen, and explains why they were able to avoid catastrophe. They have a lot of experience dealing with China's stupidity. And now on to the Iran war. According to the FBI, 2 siblings, a brother and sister, have been charged after an IED was found at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, which just so happens to be home to CENTCOM and U.S. Special Operations Command, which are running the Iran offensive. The sister, Anne Mary Jung, has been taken into custody as an accessory and for tampering with evidence. But the primary suspect, her brother Alan Jung, who has been charged with explosives offenses, is currently in China. The motive is unclear, and the FBI is still investigating the 2 siblings, but kind of looks like so far maybe China was trying to help its friends in Iran by striking the U.S. on its home soil. There's only one way to put a stop to this. Talks and bridge building. That's always worked so well before. Good luck, Chung Li-un. On top of that, China's chip maker, Semiconductor Manufacturing International Corporation, or SMIC, has reportedly supplied chip-making tech to Iran's military. 2 anonymous officials in the Trump administration pointed out that SMIC, which was sanctioned by Washington for ties to the PLA, started sending chip-making tools to the Islamic regime a year ago, which means that chips made with this tech have probably ended up in the weapons Iran has been firing at the US forces, Israel, and pretty much everyone else within range. And one of the officials says they don't think these shipments have stopped. On top of that, there are suspicions that this collaboration also included technical training for Iranians on making these products. None of which should be surprising to you, my wonderful fans who have been watching this show and knew exactly what was going on between Iran and China. But even as China is quietly supporting the Islamic Republic, China and Pakistan have issued a 5-point plan for an immediate ceasefire in the war in Iran, after the foreign ministers of China and Pakistan recently met in Beijing. Interestingly, the plan seems to reject Iran's call for charging fees in exchange for passing through the Strait of Hormuz, because China wants to save money. I mean, lives. Yeah, lives. And even though Iran offered passage in exchange for doing business in UN, both Pakistan and China called for normal passage to be restored. Talk about getting thrown under the bus, or I guess oil tanker. The plan also called for peace talks and a comprehensive framework modeled on multilateralism in the UN Charter. You know, the one that both the CCP and Islamic Republic violate in so many ways. Like vehicles that refuse to pay a fee and don't want to get blown up in the Strait of Hormuz, this plan probably isn't going anywhere. But there is one CCP plan that is finally working. Getting Shen Yun performances axed over bomb threats in Toronto. Because of course this happened in Canada. The Shen Yun Performing Arts dance troupe, which showcases China before communism and is associated with the Falun Gong spiritual practice, gets bomb threats sent to the venues where they perform constantly. But local law enforcement generally find the threats to be non-credible and the shows almost always go on, as the show must. This time was exactly the same. The threat was deemed non-credible, only the venue, the Four Seasons Center in Toronto, gave in right before the show was supposed to start. And they didn't just cancel one show, they canceled all 5 Shen Yun Toronto shows, which is an absolutely fantastic way to make sure that the bomb threats keep coming. And finally, on to Hong Kong. Police there can now demand phone and computer passwords under the amended national security law. Thank goodness I live in America. The government can't force me to tell them my passcode is 1234. Ah, dang it, now I need to change it again. The Chinese Communist Party claims the law is meant to crack down on extremism, but really it just solidifies its hold over the city and further erodes its freedoms. You know, extremism. Refusing to hand over these passwords can lead to a year behind bars and a fine of almost $13,000. The amended law also allows customs officers to seize any items they deem to be of seditious intention. Of course, the Hong Kong government is calling these reports fake and misleading and denies claims the police can just demand passwords from anyone on the street. But this is the CCP we're talking about. If you trust them, well, let's go to Admiral Akbar. It's a trap! So before the Hong Kong government seizes your money for made-up reasons, give China Uncensored your money for good reasons. Unlike Hong Kong, we're not funded by the CCP. We're funded by viewers like you, which is why I want you to become an official member of my China Uncensored 50-cent army, which you can do by simply going to ChinaUncensored.tv and clicking that orange button to subscribe. And when you join me, you'll get awesome stuff like exclusive episodes, live streams, and a vibrant chat community. But you don't do it for the awesome stuff, you do it for the feels. Because your support helps us fight YouTube censorship, pay our studio bills, hire great researchers and editors, and stand up to the CCP. We need 3,000 subscribers to stay afloat. We have 1,870 so far. We're more than halfway there. So if you've been on the fence about supporting us, now is the time. Again, go to ChinaUncensored.tv, click this button or the link below. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching China Uncensored.